So you'll be
here, and then
right, and then you'll go back here.
Well, good evening, everyone. A blessed evening to you all, and a peaceful one at that. I'm Reverend Dr. Pat Chris, or as they basically call me, Pastor Pat, because it's a lot easier. And I'm glad to welcome you here for this wonderful event, and a chance afterwards to go back and have a little bit of dessert afterwards and talk a little bit about what we learned tonight. You know, this place is probably in your mind as First Congregational Church, and it still is, but tonight, whenever people gather here for important causes or to hear a great concert or performance, it's the Danbury Meeting House. Yeah. And that goes back a ways, because when our first 8 families came up here and put up their first building down near Walgreens on Main Street, it was known as the Danbury Meeting House. So that was the beginning of what grew into Danbury. And so today, the place we gather in again is the Danbury Meeting House. We're glad to have all of you here. I want to wager that sitting here tonight, just about everybody here is an immigrant in one way or another, or your relatives. It's just that our culture doesn't refer to us as that way. Some of us were lucky enough to be born here and have our first language be English, but we here at Danbury Church are acutely aware of how hard our neighbors from other lands have worked to acquire the kind of skills that move them toward being an American. For years, First Church was the location of We Race, English as a second language. At the beginning of every semester, we had a line out the door of the church school of 200, 250 people, all eager to learn, all eager to learn a new language. And many of them were making great sacrifices. Yeah, many of them on the line came here after working 1 or 2 and sometimes 3 jobs, part-time jobs, in the course of their day, and yet they made time to be here to learn. I'll never forget, we lost an elderly woman who, after working her whole day and standing in line there, suffered a fatal heart attack in our Johnson foyer. So we have no idea of how dedicated our brothers and sisters are to learning and to being one with us. And so for the occasional person that I run into who says, they're angry because they don't speak English, all of our people who came through here could say, we do. On Christmas, they used to have a gathering here, and it was for a potluck lunch right before the Christmas break for ESL. And all the students were there, and they were coming out one day with their dishes. And as they came out and I was coming in, I said, Feliz Navidad. And they said, Merry Christmas. So we gather here this evening in support of fellow immigrants like our own families, the present ones who got here the hard way and who now deserve the same chance to sculpt their future, hopefully without any taint of prejudice or anger or violence. We hope that the meeting house and our meeting house annex with its beautifully completed rooms will be that part of that future. And I have to mention, since he's here tonight, we made a partnership with Bob Botello, and he's the one who's responsible for all the wonderful renovations here. And after our event is over, anybody who wants to take a tour of the new stuff, I will be glad to do. So, after all, the spirit of life that courses through all of our veins makes us all children of the one Spirit. Tonight I ask the blessing of the Spirit on us all, and the blessing of peace and love and the sense that we are all one. With that, I turn it over to our wonderful Olam Hesed Ivana, I got it wrong, sorry, choir who are going to sing.
Shalom, everyone. I am Cantor Lila Sugarman. I am the clergy over at United Jewish Center. I'm grateful to be with you all tonight, and I'm grateful to be inviting up our Interfaith choir. We have people from different houses of worship that are involved tonight to sing with us. We're going to be singing Olam Chesed Yibaneh. This comes from Psalms. And it's this idea, we wanted to bring forth the idea that as we're doing our work of solidarity and our work towards justice, that each act of chesed, each act of loving kindness that we do can create a world of loving kindness. This is a melody that repeats itself, so we invite you to join with us as you know it or as you become comfortable with it. It is now my honor to call up Margaret Henderson.
Hello, I'm here tonight representing the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. I'll be lighting the chalice for this evening, which is an important symbol for us Unitarian Universalists. It was created at another time when refugees fleeing persecution were seeking new homes. Many of them had fled without the identification papers they needed to cross borders. This was in 1941 during World War II. So in Lisbon, Portugal, Reverend Charles Joy decided to have the Unitarian Service Committee create official documents. He commissioned Hans Deutsch, himself a Jewish refugee from Austria into Palestine, to create an official symbol for these documents, and Hans Deutsch chose the chalice. If you'll join me in the call to prayer in your program. We have come into this room of hope where our hearts and minds are open to the future. We have come into this room of justice where we set aside our fear to name freely every oppression. We have come into this room of love where we know that no lives are insignificant. We have come into this room of song where we unite our voices in the somber and the beautiful melodies of life. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce Ari Rosenberg.
I'm Ari Rosenberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Religious Communities, and I just want to say how much it warms my heart to see so many people here tonight. It's really wonderful to have you all together for a common cause. You know, the Association of Religious Communities has been around for over 50 years now, and most people know us for the work that we do through our food pantry, or the work we do with the homeless population, or the work we do through our domestic violence prevention. But at our core, what really inspires us and motivates us to do this work in the community is our interfaith values. Half of our board are religious leaders from Jewish and Christian and Buddhist and Muslim communities. And we take our common values together and use that to inspire us to gather the community and help others. And we were gathering recently with some of the new clergy to town, or newer clergy to town, and we were just talking about how our hearts are broken as we see our neighbors getting rounded up, and we see the fear that they have that they could be rounded up. And it's something that affects men, women, children, the elderly, and we wanted to have some sort of a service that would sort of acknowledge this pain and suffering that our neighbors are going through, acknowledge the pain and suffering that we're going through, and bring us together to support each other as a community. So we're going to transition now to a series of readings from different traditions, and we'll start with one from the Christian tradition with Reverend Michael Cobb of the United Methodist Church of Danbury.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like I'm too far away from you. Sorry about that. As was just said, I pastor the United Methodist Church of Danbury. It is the one that's up on Clapboard Ridge Road that's kind of weird looking with the slanty roof. I just found out recently why the roof was built that way. I'd thought that it was supposed to be an upside-down ship's hull or something like that, and I was told, no, actually it's praying hands. And if you've been in our sanctuary, there is a glass window behind the cross, and you can see really far. And I learned that you can see straight to downtown Danbury, right down Main Street. And so that the design of the place was to be an embodied prayer for the people of Danbury, which I like. And then, of course, I look out here, and we have an embodied prayer for the people of Danbury present here tonight, which delights me. So thank you all for being here. The scripture that I have is from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 25. It's a famous section going from verse 31 down to verse 45. I'm not going to read it all to you. I'm just going to read you sort of the most famous part. It says, "When the Son of Man comes into his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he'll put the sheep at his right hand and the goats at the left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, 'Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?' And the king will answer them, 'Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me.'" When we were thinking about this service tonight, this seemed an obvious piece to share because it talks about how we treat one another, how we care for one another, and how those of us coming from different religious traditions, by caring for other people, particularly vulnerable people, we are caring for God in a very real and tangible way. And that's a good message. But as I thought about what I wanted to share with you tonight, and I read it, a couple of things occurred to me. One was that this is really the main reading from the New Testament, the core of the Christian scriptures, and that seemed important. Also, it starts off saying all the nations will be gathered before him, and that's why this piece is called the judgment of the nations. So we're not talking about the judgment of people that look like me or the judgment of people that are in my tribe. We're talking about the judgment of all the nations of all of the world. And so I can't help but read this as a call for Christians to serve the needs of the world, not just the needs of the people that look like me or the people that are in my tribe. And then there's more. Verse 37 says, "The righteous will answer him, saying, 'Lord, when did we see this?'" Meaning that the righteous did not know that they were righteous. They did not do this for political favors or some kind of a quid pro quo or something that would get them contracts. They just did it. And it doesn't say that they did it for any reason other than they did it. And that's important for a couple reasons. One is it seems that the sheep came from all the nations. So we're talking about everybody being included in this righteous number, not just some, but people from all the nations. Meaning that even for the original audience of this, there's a recognition that the Gentiles, the people who are outside of the tribe, are included as well. Well, if this is for all the nations, serving all the people, partnering with all the people, because all nations have people who are righteous, I thought, what better scripture to share with an interfaith gathering of people who are here from all sorts of traditions, but together trying to be righteous. And then I guess the other piece that really kind of got to me was this really seems to be a piece that does not support Christian nationalism in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think I would be doing my job if I didn't give words to that sentiment. Because what we see here is people from all communities of the world being righteous, people from all communities helping people from all communities, not coming into different factions, but everybody. And as these scriptures have been used sometimes to suggest that some are righteous and some are not, I read this as saying that there is more that we have in common when we try to help one another than there is separating us by in whose name we help one another or by what means we help one another. And so I share this with you tonight, certainly because it does speak to the idea that we should care for one another, and I do believe that. But I think it speaks more broadly to our current moment that when we help one another, help with anybody who wants to help. Don't worry too much about where they're coming from or why they want to help. Help with everybody. And if people use helping other people as a way to divide us, I see that as not supported by my tradition. And since we're gathered here together, I just felt it was important to give voice to that, because there are voices much, much louder than mine that are much higher up than I am right now that would suggest otherwise. And so it's very uncomfortable for me to say that, but I say that anyway. And I think that sometimes that's what you do, right? Thank you. I am pleased to invite up Cantor Lila Sugarman.
I'm going to share some words from the Torah, from our Hebrew Bible. I'm going to chant a little bit in Hebrew first, because when we read our Bible, our Torah out loud, it is sung, and this melody helps us to remember it, but this melody is also the grammar, because if you look at a Torah scroll, some of you may know, there is no punctuation in it, so the melody helps you to know where you are. Ki Adonai Elohechem Hu Elohei HaElohim Ve'Adonai HaAdoni HaEl HaGadol HaGibor Ve'Hanora Asher Lo Isafanim Velo Yikach Shochad. For your God, Adonai, you and your God, Adonai, is God supreme and Lord supreme, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, who shows no favor and takes no bribes, but upholds the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and befriends the stranger, providing food and clothing. You too must befriend the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Throughout our teachings, our Jewish tradition calls upon us to welcome the stranger. In fact, we see it in the text in the Torah 36 times. Now, numbers are also often very important in our tradition, and 18 in Judaism is high, and 18 double is 36. So we see that there's maybe a hidden message in there, that in order to fulfill a life, not just a life, but a full life, a double life, we must befriend the stranger. We must welcome those who are strangers to us, for we were once strangers in the land of Egypt. I also came across a text when we were studying in our Torah study this week, one that I'd never read, or I'm sure I'd read it before, but never noticed in the same way. And it's from Leviticus. And to add to this, it says, "You shall have one standard for the stranger and the citizen alike, for I am Adonai, your God." And earlier in our Torah, it says, we are all created b'tselem Elohim. We are all created in the divine image. This is our core value. Regardless of place of origin, we are all created in God's image. We all deserve to be treated with kindness and respect and to have due process. May we be guided by the wisdom of our tradition. May we continue to come together like we are tonight and pray with our voices to show our support and our solidarity and strengthen each other, and to show our support and our solidarity with immigrants in our community. May we also pray with our feet, standing up for democracy, for justice, for due process, respect, and dignity for all people. Thank you.
And do you want to? Okay. And now we would like to invite the Venerable Wisdom Sakya from Middle Way Meditation Center.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Venerable Ocean of Wisdom Sakya of the Middle Way Meditation Centers. I have a very long lineage. It's called Lukong Long Tai Tiem in Buddhism, which would be kind of like Vietnamese Zen, if we wanted to translate it for people who might understand. In the past, when I've come to these events, I've often shared Metta Bhavana. And Metta Bhavana is a cultivation. Metta is loving kindness. Bhavana means cultivating or being in. So Metta Bhavana is loving kindness. So in discussing our events tonight, I discussed maybe sharing another practice which has the same intention called Tonglen. Tonglen comes from the Vajrayana tradition, which is part of the Mahayana traditions. Don't worry, no quiz later. And so this is the practice of giving and taking. And it's a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to. But the key component in any of these practices is that you're trying to cultivate, water a seed in you of something you already have. Water a seed of loving kindness, of metta. In Tonglen, we're really focusing on compassion, or karuna in Sanskrit, also in Pali. And the key thing here is to have this intention, to send this out, if you will. Now, as others have said, we're here in solidarity. And there's one truth in Buddhism that we have, and it's that all people seek happiness and all people seek to avoid pain. It doesn't matter race, sex, religion, sexuality, it doesn't matter. Everybody seeks to be happy, everybody seeks to avoid pain. And we forget this, and we create arbitrary categories, and then we label ourselves, and we give each group a label and a name, and then we act as if that group exists in reality. And from a Buddhist perspective, we talk a lot about something called shunyata, or emptiness, that all of these things are arbitrary. What we call the United States right now is not always the United States, okay? Won't be in the future. Every nation that exists right now will not exist in the future. So how do we spend our time? Do we spend our time making each other more miserable? Or do we spend our time making each other better? So Tonglen is one of these practices because this is very ingrained in us. It's very ingrained. The tribalism is very, very ingrained in us. So how do we get past that? So Tonglen is one of these practices to really help. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to sit up straight, and you just want to have a straight back because you want to be able to breathe. And then close your eyes. And just attend to your breath for a couple of breaths. Now I want you to imagine someone in front of you who's in need of something. Maybe they need health. Maybe they need money. Maybe they need a home. Something that they need. And I want you to imagine in that person in front of you, and the person could be can be a proxy for a group of people or somebody as well. And don't worry about getting this absolutely right. The key here is to have the intention. And I want you to imagine whatever thing that they have that they are missing, whether it's whatever misery they might have, that it shrinks from inside their body, it shrinks into something kind of the size of the pea where their heart is. And I want to imagine yourself in front of them, facing them. And get a sense of any good feelings that you have inside of yourself. Positive feelings, positive sensations. And I want you to imagine all of those positive sensations, all those qualities put into a ball, kind of the size of a baseball, where your heart is. Now here's where the giving and the taking happens. As you breathe in, imagine that pea of misery, whatever that misery is, because that's everything's in there, because you're taking everything away from this person that's causing them misery. So if it's sickness, the sickness is contained in this little pea in their heart. And as you breathe in, it comes out of them to you. And it enters the purity of your heart, and it dissipates. It's purified. And then as you breathe out, and you can imagine it as rays, you can imagine it as light, you send from your heart to them whatever it is that they need. Again, if it's shelter, medicine, health, it comes from your heart and you send it to them. And as it enters into them, their entire body is transformed by whatever is the color of the energy that you're sending to them from yourself. They're purified, they're cleansed, and everything's given. And the key thing here is this intention, like this really works. You want to get this idea that this really will help. And then as you breathe in again, okay, that energy comes back to you. Or if there's something else that they're missing, you can do it again with, maybe they need shelter. Another pea, pull it out, and then you breathe out and you fill them with light. Breathing in, taking all of their suffering. Breathing out, giving them everything they need. Breathing in, taking all their suffering. Breathing out, give them everything they need. And what you can do in this practice is you can change people. I sometimes actually imagine, just have one group come up and I'll do it, and then I'll do it with another group, and then another group. Whatever there is, there's lots of needs to go around. You'll never run out of people. And when you finish your final round of giving, you can open your eyes. Now, a few things about this practice. Don't worry about the color, whatever it is, whatever energy you're sending, whatever energy is to you is healing or giving, that's fine. Second thing is, I've overly simplified. When I was taught this by one of my teachers, Geshe Michael Roach, It was 3 days for this teaching. So I've given you a real abbreviated version. So nobody walk here and say, oh, yeah, this Buddhist, he gave us empowerment in Tonglen. I did not. I gave you a much smaller exercise to just trying to engage that intention to help others. Okay. So, and if you're like, wow, that's too much, that's a lot for me to do, then you can always do metta. May I be well and happy. May I be free from suffering. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from suffering. So I'll end with a little sound offering. May you be well and happy. I believe next in the program is a Muslim community.
My dear friend Shazita Khan serves on ARC's board and has, as long as I can remember, and she always hosts the kids who attend our Interfaith Peace Camp at the Baitul Mukarram Masjid, and many of the children have never set foot in a masjid before. For those who don't know, it's kind of like a mosque, essentially. It's right around the corner, really. It's an exciting experience for the kids. They are not allowed to wear their shoes in there. They take their shoes off, and she walks them through the space that they have, the sacred space that they have. I really hope that's not my phone. And she shows the children how to write their name in Arabic. And she tells them all about her traditions and the values that they have in the Muslim community, and it's a very special experience for me. I can't go every single day of Interfaith Peace Camp, but I always make sure to go and join Shazita Khan when she's hosting the kids at the Baitul Mukarram Masjid. And when she told me that she wasn't going to be able to be here tonight because I believe she's teaching, I asked her what we should do, and I was really honored when she said that I could offer this reading on behalf of the Muslim community. So this comes from the Quran, 872. Those who believed, emigrated, and strived with their wealth and lives in the cause of Allah, as well as those who gave them shelter and help, they are truly guardians of one another. As for those who believe but did not emigrate, you have no obligations to them until they emigrate. But if they seek your help against persecution in faith, it is your obligation to help them, except against people bound with you in a treaty. Allah is all-seeing of what you do. And I'm not a scholar of the Muslim traditions myself, but when I look at this reading, I see the compassion and the caring that they have in the Muslim community for people who emigrate, people who have experienced persecution and other forms of suffering. And I think that's a common value in all of the religions. We're going to continue with a musical offering from the Interfaith Choir led by Cantor Lila Sugarman.
We're going to join together in Ose Shalom, which is a prayer of peace. As some of you know, the word shalom, peace, has the same root, shlemut, of wholeness. So when we sing for peace, we're singing for a lack of strife and a lack of war and a lack of pain, but also a addition of wholeness.
Shalom,
we've been wanting to do this interfaith choir for a long time. It's really coming together wonderfully, so thank you so much for that. We have two speakers tonight. For those who don't know, there's an active chapter of Connecticut Students for a Dream at Danbury High School, and I have had the privilege to hear some of them speak. We're hoping one of them might be able to speak today, but unfortunately, there's so much fear right now in the community, and also school just let out. But it's mostly the fear that honestly they were reticent to come and speak today. So Juan Fonseca Tapia spoke recently to our Interfaith clergy group, and he is right in the thick of it, working very closely with immigrants in our community who need our help. And he's going to come up and say a few words about his experience. Thank you, Juan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Juan Fonseca Tapia. I am from Mexico. I live here in Danbury. I came to Danbury back in 2011, 2012. And I don't know how I'm doing today. So I'll when I am feeling a lot of things or having trouble identifying what I feel, I sometimes turn to poetry. So I'll share something with you all first. Often I think about the failure of language. How does one create verbs and adjectives to describe terror? How does one describe a form of resilience that requires the magic of 320 seeds, different indigenous communities? Is there a noun for the type of energy that Black body feels with it sense danger? Is there an adjective for the type of sex the alienated want to have in order to stop time? Is there a verb for traveling into another dimension to understand how the self is surviving? Is there the possibility of being human once again? Is there a method in which to make sense of life and remember that after all, the violence, the native Indian body is still an embodied subject making joy out of all that is supposedly dead? Is there a glossary for those who have arrived and have no home, those who were forced to migrate out of their land? And what about those who cannot remember? What about those who cannot remember anything before the crossing? Sometimes I think about the failure of a language. Language once tried to fool me into thinking that the Black, alienated, self-human native Indian, dead, arrivants, and crossers could not speak language. I do not speak. I scream. The author, it's Alan Pelez. That's an Afro-Mexican author that writes a lot about displacement and violence that people who have to flee have experienced. And as I said, I am from Mexico, and I do want to share about what I'm thinking that it's like to be an immigrant in Danbury right now. And as I was driving here and I walked through those doors, I was thinking about how do I describe this? What I have been seeing for the past weeks always brings me back to memories from when I was 7 years old. My mom died when I was 7, in March 16. And I knew what was happening, but I also didn't know what was happening. I remember that my family all went to the cemetery and they didn't want to take me. And remember all of them coming back without her. And I have a lot of deep pain and grief and rage because I grew up wanted my mom to come back, to put me to bed, or to be there the nights that I woke up screaming and she wasn't. And what I saw today reminded me a lot about that. Because there were moms and dads that were taken, kidnapped. And I know that there are going to be many children here in our city wondering where they are. So I am thinking about that a lot. And people, I have been doing this work for a while, trying to do justice work. And a lot of times, a lot of people that don't really know me, especially white folks, tell me that they love to see how passionate I am about this work. And many of you, this is the first time that you're seeing me, so you'll know, like, I'm not passionate about this work. I am not. For me, my passion is good food. And dancing and being with my friends and plants and gardening and good cocktails. That is what that's what my passion is. And so, like, for me, this is not my passion. I do this work because I have deep pain and I have rage. And I know what deep pain looks like, and it feels like, and what it smells like. And it looks like two girls that weren't probably even 18 being kidnapped on White Street at around 3 p.m. today. And it looks like a mom being dragged out of her car on Osborne Street and her kids waiting for her tonight. That's what deep pain looks like and feels like. And I always wonder, and I didn't come up with this, but I saw this, right? And I do wonder about this. Somebody asked, what if we knew the infrastructure that Hitler was building before World War II. What we as people would have done with that knowledge then? We know that the infrastructure is here and it has been created, and all the tools are available onto their disposals. And fascism is not coming, it's here. And so it's like, well, now what? And I think that what we do now is we choose us. We choose to show up for one another. We show up for our community. We give love and softness and joy and care to one another. And we organize. And for organizing, like, for me, I think that like the art and the love and the magic of organizing is believing that another world is possible. And that's what many of us who do organizing work and do justice work, I do believe that, really believe. And what I saw today was that, actually. Because I had many folks that have joined our group over the past 4 months who had shared compassion and radical love and radical imagination about what to do. We didn't know what to do. Because there were over 30 agents in Danbury today, between 20 and 25 cars, vehicles. We saw them. Nobody told us. We saw them. We were driving, we were chasing them. And we didn't know what to do. But what it took was a sense of shared love for one another, and like people holding on to their humanity and people holding on to like radical love and radical imagination. That is really what we need to do right now. So I want to close with a question to you all. Many of you have children and many of you have grandchildren. And what would you want to tell your grandchildren in 20 years when they ask you, what did you do when people were being kidnapped from the streets? Where were you? How did you show up for your community? Not what you said, but what did you do? And I really hope that you can look at them in the eyes and tell them that you chose courage over fear and love over anything else. Because that's really what I believe that is the only thing that is going to get us through the other side. Because I believe that we're going to get there. But I need you. We need you. And thank you for having me tonight. Thank you for having us tonight. Yeah, thank you for the space.
And now I'd like to invite Reverend Gina Gore of St. James Episcopal Church to lead us in a litany of prayer for refugees, immigrants, and displaced persons.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Juan, for that vulnerability and that call to action, and just really touching our hearts and for being here. We're grateful. Please join me in prayer. For the refugees, immigrants, and displaced persons of our city and world, hear our prayer and let our cries come to you. Divine Spirit, Redeemer of the world, have mercy upon those we bring to prayer tonight. Defend and protect them in their journey. For all who travel the road of uncertainty and enter foreign lands, loving one, guide and accompany them as you guided our ancestors. For all who have left their homes and do not know where they will go, take them to the green pastures and lead them beside still waters. For all who are walking through the valley of the shadow of death, be their shepherd, let them fear no evil. For all whose journey takes them down the road of hunger and thirst, prepare a table before them and let their cup run over. For all who long to come home, give them hope, restore their souls, and reunite them with their loved ones and their community. For things we have done and left undone that contributed to their suffering, Divine Spirit, have mercy and forgive us. For our policies and laws that have broken hearts and separated families, have mercy and forgive us. For our times of silence that became complicity, have mercy and forgive us. For political or economic interests and agendas that make us blind or indifferent to human suffering and need, have mercy and forgive us. For the harsh and unfair judgments we have made about one another's motives or the circumstances of others' lives, have mercy and forgive us. May all who live in safety, comfort, and privilege show up in action, compassion, and love for those in need. Give us your grace and the will to overcome fear, violence, and prejudice, that we may find strength to persevere with hope. Teach us to love the stranger as ourselves, opening the borders of our hearts and minds, that we may welcome each person as a beloved human being. For the law enforcement officers and agents of our city, and to all who work with refugees, immigrants, and displaced persons, give wise minds, gentle hands, compassionate hearts, and a will for the common good. To the leaders of this nation, give humility and guide them in the ways of human dignity, peace, and justice. To all who work for unity, justice, freedom, and peace, give wisdom, creativity, and perseverance. For all that is gracious in the lives of men and women everywhere, revealing your image and likeness, we thank you, Divine Spirit. O God, you made us in your image and redeemed us. Look with compassion on the whole human family. Take away the arrogance and hatred which infect our hearts. Break down the walls that separate us. Unite us in bonds of love, and work through our struggle and confusion to accomplish your purposes on earth, that in your good time all nations and races may serve you in harmony around your heavenly throne. Amen. If you would please join me in a shared commitment as we share and recite together. We here are united in our diversity, called to open our hearts to all our brothers and sisters, especially refugees and the displaced. Guided by compassion, justice, and loving kindness, we affirm the dignity and worth of every person. We here are enriched by our diversity, called to listen deeply and learn from one another, celebrating the cultures, stories, and strengths that shape our shared life. Rooted in mutual respect, we commit to building a community of belonging. We here are inspired by our diversity, moved to act together for a more just and compassionate world, where no one is forgotten and every voice is honored. With hope and courage, we walk forward as one human family. Thank you very much.
And now for our second speaker tonight, I would like to invite Tabitha Sugdeo, the Executive Director of Connecticut Students for a Dream.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So I'm coming from the greater New Haven area, although our organization is statewide, and we do have a chapter at Danbury High School. So Connecticut Students for a Dream is the largest youth-led organization that fights for the rights of undocumented youth and their families, and that's something that we take incredibly seriously. Hearing from Juan earlier today brings up the hurt and pain that we're seeing in children across the state of Connecticut. 2 weeks ago, there was a 16-year-old high school student that was taken. And he was at Meriden in high school. He's 16 years old, just about to graduate. And there was nothing more than he wanted in the world to graduate from high school and to go to college. Right now, he's sitting with his father in a detention facility in Texas. Last week, there was a mother with 2 children in New Haven driving them to school when an ICE agent dragged her out of her car. Her 16-year-old daughter, Monse, was screaming for them to leave her mother alone. And the ICE agents turned to her and said, "If you don't stop screaming, I'll take you too." They left her and her sibling, who has autism, in the car, running while they took mom away. This is what our young people are facing. These are what our children are facing across the state. And we need help. We desperately need help. So I will tell you that we're working on an initiative that's called the Connecticut Immigrant Support Network. And alongside a few other clergy members, a few other faith leaders, there's this group that's come together to create an immigrant support ministry. I think there are a few folks in the room who have been part of those phone calls. And I just want to make sure that you realize how important this is. I mentioned Kevin earlier in that he and his dad are located in Texas at the moment. We're seeing a gross deviation from what has been the norm. Connecticut does not have any detention facilities. And so it means that when folks are taken, that they're then brought to other states. It's usually Vermont, Massachusetts, or Pennsylvania. That is what has been common. Now, folks are taken to those states for about 2 to 3 days and then ultimately taken to southern states like Louisiana, Texas, and also in Georgia, where there are terrible conditions with gross human rights violations. We have a limited amount of attorneys that are available in the state who know how to handle deportation cases. When folks are taken to southern states, it's near to impossible to be able to access those clients thereafter. And so more now than ever, we need the help of faith leaders. We need faith leaders to help us to step up and to create networks in places like Louisiana and Texas and in Georgia so that we can get access to folks who are impacted there. We want to bring our people back home, because at the end of the day, they're also Connecticut residents and they are our neighbors. Some other things that are helpful include providing ministerial support. People turn to their faith when things are hard, and people need your prayers and your love more now than ever. The other thing that I'll mention too is that there was a family that was impacted on Saturday morning in Hamden, where ICE came to their home and there were other members who did not have papers. And so they didn't feel safe going home. There's a church in New Haven that has stepped up to say, you can stay here temporarily until we figure things out. These are the types of support that are necessary. Folks aren't going to the grocery store. They're staying home hungry. They're not going to the doctor's office. They're canceling tons of appointments, and they need to know that they are fully human. And there is power in the church in order to embrace that full humanity, to embrace what it really means to be in community with one another and to uphold justice and ensuring right relatedness with each other. So my call to action is this, that you step up as you already are, and that you look your fellow neighbors in the eye and that you see their full humanity. I invite you to go to ctimmigrants.org, where you can find a variety of resources. There's a section for detention support, and we will also be adding a specific link where people can identify what their needs are within this moment when it comes to spiritual support. Please stay connected with us, and the type of work that I'm doing is on statewide level, it's on coordination, but one is here if you want to ensure that you're getting involved in a hyper-local level, because folks, we need you now more than ever, and there's a lot of darkness that surrounds us. But we do see the light because we still know that community exists and that there are people who care. So thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
We're going to continue with a shared silence. Let us observe a time of silent prayer for those suffering from fear of deportation or displacement, homelessness, food insecurity, pain, grief, and more, and for the courage to persevere and find hope through the love of others. And now I invite everyone, please, to rise where you are, if you are able, and to offer some sign or gesture or word of peace from your tradition to whoever's near you, and ideally also someone that maybe you haven't met before. We have two more pieces to this service before we conclude. You can be seated again. I'd like to invite the Reverend Dr. Pat Chris up for the closing prayer. Pastor Pat.
What a wonderful evening. Loving God, Adonai, we thank you for this gathering, for restoring us with fellowship, music, prayer, meditation, inspiration, and hope. Now send us forth as people healed, renewed, and inspired that we may proclaim your love to the world and continue in loving kindness, day by day. Amen. And now it's my pleasure to ask Cantor Lila and our wonderful choir to sing us out.
We close our service with words rooted in our past with the civil rights movement in hopes that we will build upon it to continue in our prayers and our praying with our feet for justice. So we join together and we shall overcome. We will be singing in English, in Hebrew, and in Spanish. Please join us. You're welcome to follow along in your program.
And now I want to invite all of you to come back to Annie Orr Hall. You can go up these stairs here and for some refreshments and a little conversation. And anybody who wants to tour some of the building with us and our beautiful bride suite, etc., do see me or do see Bob Vitello, who's sitting in the back there. Blessings to all. We shall overcome. Amen.